Thanks, Rob. I'm Steve McCarthy, and we have a special guest joining us in the studio as I'm here with Dan McCarthy, who's in charge of putting together the annual Faire On The Square Festival. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Steve, thanks for having me.
Of course. So this is going to be the 20th year that the Faire On The Square has been in Watertown. What do the people have to look forward to at this year's event?
Well, this year we've done quite a number of enhancements. We looked at who we were drawing, our demographic, and who who we weren't catering to. For example, we felt we didn't have much for the teenage crowd, so we added a rock wall, karaoke, many inflatables. We looked to enhance the children's rides, so we got a new ride vendor, more of a carnival ride vendor, so we have better rides and more of them. The other big element that we've added is a beer and wine garden. So It's the first time in 20 years we'll have beer and wine for sale. It'll be a very confined area on the basketball court at the Boys and Girls Club. You'll of course have to be 21 with a positive ID.
Naturally.
And there are restrictions on it. You can't leave the area with a cocktail, a beer, and there'll be a 2-drink limit per person. We'll have wristbands issued. So we feel that'll be a big enhancement. We've moved the stage. So the stage was always traditionally on the far end of Saltonstall Field. So now we're using the town stage, so that will be closer to the beer garden and entertain there.
Okay, so you brought up all these awesome new things you guys are doing. However, this has been the 20th year this festival's gone on. What are some of the things that have been in years past you guys are keeping going on in the festival?
Well, Steve, a staple of the fair has always been the great food. So we have and there are some local vendors that have always been there. The fair's been going on, as we mentioned, it's the 20th year this year, so some of them have been there from day one. So you have your sausages and your hot dogs and your fried dough and all that. There's some local flavor, people creating desserts and goodies, and they'll be there. And we've added a few food trucks to enhance the offerings. Other things, just the music has always been a key part of the fair. We've always had, I've been in charge for 19 years of lining up the bands, so I've always made it a point to appeal to a wide demographic, so have a little sampling for everybody. We have a top 40 band. We have an a cappella group leading it off, Street Magic a cappella, which is, they're phenomenal, anybody that knows them. We have, for the first time, we have a Bob Seger tribute band, which will go on at 3 o'clock, which is just phenomenal. It's a Waltham-based, a couple of Waltham guys in that band, and I think that'll be a real highlight of the fair.
So you said that 19 years ago you got involved with the bands. What made you want to get involved with this awesome festival?
Well, I was approached by town officials at the beginning of the year, and we really talked about, what could we do. We thought that the past couple of years we were lagging a little, the numbers were a little off, and we really, for the 20th year, we really wanted to bring something special to the table, and you'll see very colorful field flags out. So when you look out on Saltonstall Field, you'll see karaoke, you'll see pony rides, you'll see face painting. You'll be able to see exactly where that is. There'll be 10-foot high flags designating that. Another important element we brought in this year are street performers, which we haven't had in the past. So I went to a number of different fairs, but more notably the Cambridge River Fest, and that's like the Mac Daddy of all fairs.
It's pretty good.
So I went to that one. They had 4 different stages going on at all times, and I hired 2 street performers, Faneuil Hall type street performers that draw a big crowd. So we have Kate the Great and the and the Flying Hawaiian.
The Flying Hawaiian, I love
that. She's amazing. I watched her show, and and they entertain not only the kids, but people of all ages will enjoy these performers. And they have a show going on. They alternate, so every half hour there'll be a new show.
So one of our staff members had a question for you. One of his favorite events, he didn't see it last year. What happened to the pie eating contest?
Well, that was, who was in charge of that? We had an apple pie contest. I believe it was Joyce Munger, the late Joyce Munger, who was involved in everything. I believe she was in charge of that a few years back. We may bring that back sometime, but that
Dan
was a
Hogan will be
highlight.
ecstatic about
Yeah,
it.
that was a highlight of the fair for sure. Yeah.
So looking back on past festivals, you've been here for 19 years. You know, how has the Faire on the Square evolved and grown since when you first got involved?
Well, for one thing, you know, when we first started out, it was a committee of 15 people. And, you know, it was we had a manual, believe it or not. There was a very thick manual on how to run a proper fair, and credit to Mike Donham, who was in charge at the time. So much of the credit for the keeping it going goes to Jack Flynn, our town clerk, because Jack he's the wheel that keeps all the elements in play, and he really works hard at this. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I believe that the big appeal for the fair is that it brings all neighborhoods together. Watertown, I grew up in Watertown. I spent 28 years here, and one of the things that I always loved about growing up here is it always you knew all your neighbors, and you gave that sense. I knew people from the East End and the West End, and you know, I think the fair brings everybody together on common ground and enjoy a nice day. And knock on wood, we've always had great weather too, so that helps.
I know you said you guys had a rain delay date. Hopefully
Yeah.
we don't have to get to that, but
Right.
you kind of had the perfect segue into my next question.
Sure.
How important is it to have a festival like this that reaches all different ages and demographics in such a tight-knit community like Watertown?
Well, I think it speaks well of the town. You know, the town of Watertown is so behind this. They've been, you know, like I say, 20 years, and even before this, we had a fall festival on Charles River Road back in the 80s that I got involved with as well. It just brings all elements, like political leaders and civic leaders, and the DPW and the schools and the teachers, and you see all those faces come together at the fair. The firefighters and the police officers, they have a touch a truck. We as a committee have a touch a truck program where the kids can come out and actually hop into the fire truck or the DPW truck, and boy, I'll tell you, the looks on the faces when they get to shake hands with the firefighters and the police that are there, it's just a great experience, bringing all those departments together. Recreation has a big part of it too. Pete Santola is a very good friend of mine and a classmate from high school, and he always has a good presence at the fair. And the community organizations, I think if you saw the list of community organizations that have a booth, I mean, I think it's well over, last year it was well over 100, so I think we do well there as well. You know?
Well, that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for being
pleasure,
here.
Steve. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thanks to Dan McCarthy for joining us. Don't miss the Faire on the Square on September 22nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the Salt and Salt Field behind the Town Administration Building. Rob and Jim are standing by with more Watertown Weekly News. Take it away, guys.